Burke's on his feet. He looks up and gives me a grin and says, "Hey dude, you too must be from Marin." Marin County's A-OK, from Tam to Stinson all the way to MA. Fresh organic veggies in the market every day. The Dennis, Dylan, and NWA.
Welcome to the RUN TMC Podcast. That is the RUN the Marin County Podcast, a podcast about basketball in Marin County. I am Duffy Ballard, and with me is Coach Dave Levine. And this episode marks the end of an epic, Dave. This is episode 38 and the last episode of season 1 of the RUN TMC Podcast. And how does that make you feel?
Duffy, to quote the great wise one, Big Head Todd and the Monsters, "It's bittersweet, more sweet than bitter, bitter than sweet." That's it. I'm not going to sing anymore for you, Duff.
It's giving me the chills. That was great. Yeah, bittersweet. And we thought that to wrap up season 1, Dave, that we would focus on the sweet and not the bitter. And maybe start with just some numbers from season 1. So I mentioned already 38 episodes and a couple bonus episodes as well.
Yep.
Roughly 70 hours of content. So
Wow.
70 hours of us kind of talking at or around or in adjacent to each other. Feel like I've gotten to know you better, which has been fantastic.
It's only taken 70 hours. And I think, Duffy, was that our first singing moment?
I believe it was, and you definitely will not hear me singing at any point in the future, Dave. So don't even start going there.
Okay.
But
Dare to dream.
We can bring you back. I think an encore is going to be in the future.
Little pitchy, as they would say in American Idol, but that's all right. Okay, keep going. So 70 hours of content. What more numbers? I want analytics. I want data. Go.
25 glossary terms, which by my estimation is about the number that JJ Redick gets to in the first 7 minutes of his podcast.
True. I feel like we might have even had more than 25. What we got?
Yeah, at least 25.
At least 25. At least 25. Okay. What else?
16,000 almost downloads. And then we think tens of thousands of streams, although we don't have a way of measuring that, which again is the number that JJ Redick gets in about the first 7 minutes of this podcast. Over 100 RUN TMC t-shirts out in the community, which we're very proud of. And we see these all the time in unexpected places. So awesome to see the gear getting out there. And
Awesome.
59 that are shipping have already shipped out of our Healthy Heart fundraiser. So 59 on their way, as well as a stockpile that we're going to have at RUN TMC t-shirt headquarters here in San Sema. And then $2,500 raised for charities. We'll talk about that in a minute. And at least 4 different types of microphones, I believe.
True. Very true.
And a rough estimation, a baker's dozen of incorrect NBA predictions, with more on the way for sure, including my prediction that it would be the Celtics and the Nuggets in the finals. And that is looking a little dicey, Dave.
Well, it's still early days. And we're not even going to talk about our NCAA predictions, which were abysmal. At least mine were. So I have one more piece of data, Duff. I looked, our first interview was with Mike Fulton on September 14th. So if you do the math, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, here we are in May. That's 9 months that we've been at this.
Sweet.
Pretty amazing how the time flies. Really grateful for the community and appreciative of our listeners and our guests who supported us and kind of been hanging with us on this 9-month journey. So thank you, everybody.
Indeed. Well said, Dave. I'm going to take a quick moment here, Dave, before we get into some summary. We're going to do a summary of some of our highlights of season 1, but I want to do a quick note on the t-shirts because my mother-in-law, Heather, was visiting recently. She is British,
Yes,
although
she is.
currently living in Florida. And she came out and she went to her first ever live basketball game. I think her first basketball game, period, because she does not own a television. She went to see Holden play in a 24-8 game in a tournament. And she said something along the lines of, that looked like netball, but with more bouncing of the ball. So she had played some netball, which you're probably familiar with, Dave, which is a game that girls would play in England and in New Zealand as well. Anyway, she loved her Run TMC t-shirt. And so we have some pictures of her and Angela wearing their t-shirts. We're going to put them up on the website. And she was also excited enough about the podcast in general, even though she knows nothing about the sport of basketball, that she agreed to read a thank you to our sponsors, our end of season 1. Thank you to our sponsors. So you'll get that treat in a little while, and you'll notice, Dave, she has a very precise articulation in her British accent. It's very nice.
So to those of you, cough, Dan Dibley, cough, who jump ahead 15 or 30 seconds whenever we get into our sponsors, listen to this one. It's like listening to Masterpiece Theater. It's amazing.
All right. So we're going to do just a couple wrap-ups on season 1. Dave, and then we're going to get into a little bit of a preview of our interview. And this is an amazing interview. We'll come back to it, but with Mike Pritchard. And we'll mix in some sponsor stuff and all that good jazz. So let's start with glossary.
So we, over our 38 episodes, we didn't always have a glossary term. Sometimes we both had glossary terms. Sometimes it was just one of us, but our analytics, at least 25 glossary terms. So Duff, why don't you run through the ones that we can remember that we did? We're probably missing a few.
All right. I'm going to do these quickly, Dave.
Yep.
And if you want to know what they are because you don't remember, go look them up on our website. There's a link to our list of our glossary terms. All right. So we got to go nail, Velcro, blob, slob, floppy action, zoom, Chicago action, double gap, ice coverage, go to the 45, tag, the roller, get action, Iverson, middle third, backcourt, bounce, blur, ghost screen, pack line, pass it to the basket, Spain action, wolf, stampede, inverted ball screen, shell, mic and drill, hammer screen, a one motion shot versus a two motion shot, and swings and paint touches.
Beautifully read, Dustin. And so of those, Duff, as you look at them, what's your favorite one? What's your top glossary term? This wasn't in our script, but let's just improv here. What do you want?
I would say the one that I have adopted into my coaching and my playing that I use all the time now is courtesy of Dave Deneen, and that is wolf. And so wolf, as you may recall, is when your team has the ball and there's a defender coming from behind that they may not see, but you see. And rather than, say, watch your back, all you have to say is wolf. What about you, Dave?
Absolutely love it. I'm going back to where we started, Duff, the nail.
The nail?
I just like the nail. And I've had people, Tom Poser, like probably the most knowledgeable basketball person outside of you, Duff, that I know, said, I didn't realize that the nail is called, like they use the nail to create the circle around the key. So you learn something new every day. Yeah, nail's my favorite. Maybe it's just nostalgia for our first episode.
Well, I like the nail as well because when I have used this glossary term, I used to come to practice with my 7th and 8th graders and have one glossary term that we would just cover at the start of practice. And the nice thing about the nail is that, yes, you could walk them there and there might be, depending on the court, there might be a little nail there, a mark of a nail, or not. Either way, you could just show them how you might, pull a little string with chalk on it, out from that spot, and then you just trace it around, and there you would have the top of the key.
Yeah.
And so it's a good one for demonstrating something that has historic significance, but also it has strategic significance in playing the game of basketball because it's an important part of the court to own in virtually any type of structure, whether you're going against man-to-man or zone defense.
Absolutely. So love the glossary. We'll keep that going next season. I thought we could do a brief shout out to all of our guests. And for our listeners who maybe you're here for the first time because you you love Mike Pritchard and you're a fan of stand-up comedy and you're learning about basketball. We'll just do a quick rundown on our guests and kind of who they are. I encourage you to go back and listen to old episodes. Apologize for the early episodes where Duffy and I sucked. We got better over time. We'll listen to this back in a couple of years when we're on season 6 and think, wow, season 1 was really bad. But anyway, we started with the legend Mike Fulton, unbelievable coach. That was a great episode 1. That gave us the confidence that, okay, maybe this will work because Mike was so good. If Mike was not as good an interview, maybe we don't even have an episode 2. Episode 2, Tom Poser and Jon Granucci, a really fun discussion about pickup basketball and kind of the history of Marin hoops. Episode 3 was unbelievable with Caden Korst, KK. I still have kids come up to me, girls come up to me who I'm coaching, say, hey, I listened to your KK episode. I had one say this to me last night. I listened to your KK episode. It was so good. So KK was great. Episode 4 was with Tim Lacoste, the Dominican coach. We're going to have Tim on again. That was really great for us to have a college coach, a guy who's coached for 30 years in the college game. Episode 5, one of the more entertaining ones in my view, Dave Deneen, hilarious storyteller, great legend from Santa Fe High. Episode 6, Chris Ballard, Duffy, your brother, phenomenal insights into the NBA, the Sports Illustrated writer who's one of the best in the business. Episode 7, Mike and Ashley Saya. Ashley actually just stepped down as the coach at Marin Catholic after an unbelievable run. Mike is still the boys coach there. That's a great conversation about coaching and leadership and also dealing with adversity through injuries, which Ashley had to deal with. Episode 8, our guy Daryl Rory, phenomenal referee. You'll see him reffing everything around Marin and just a great guy and a great human and a great ambassador for Marin City, one of our favorite people. Episode 9, Michelle Bravelli Smith, athletic director at Novato High, Santa Fe High legend, great person. We're going to talk about Mike Diaz in a little bit. She played for Mike Diaz in high school. Michelle's great, and I loved talking to her. Episode 10, we had our first high schooler on, Owen Bugas, who nailed it, crushed it, super composed and articulate and mature and great. And that led us to ask for more high schoolers to join us on the podcast. And he was joined by his coach, Russ Bauer, who was fantastic and has done such a good job, along with you, Duff, with the Archie Williams boys. Then we had Rick Winter, episode 11, founder of NBBA, Marin Catholic coach, and just an amazing basketball mind and leader. We loved talking to Rick. Episode 12, another one of my favorites, Tyler Gaffney, San Domenico boys coach. Great discussion on coaching and leadership. And we had Con Dunning and Chad Stewart to give some love to San Marin, which was a really fun discussion about the past and present of San Marin. Then we had Dan Dibley, sports talk host, hilarious guy we could have talked to for hours about a variety of topics. He's also our number one fan. Episode 15, Kevin and Jake Vasquez, another high schooler who came in and crushed it. Kevin, assistant coach for Redwood, and Jake, Redwood's star player. Great conversation. Then we went back in time and talked to Jeff Skaggs about the MCAL of yesterday, of the 70s and the legendary Drake Adult League of the early 80s. That was a really fun conversation. Karen Horstmeyer, we talked about same thing, kind of the history of Marin hoops from the girls' side, which is a fantastic conversation, also with a Division I player and coach. We had 24-8's Kenny Woodard and Jordan Lewis on to talk about their journeys as players and coaches and starting 24-8. Really fun discussion. Then we had probably the best player that we interviewed over the entire season, Brooke Smith, a WNBA champion, a Division I star at Duke and Stanford, and a Marin Catholic legend who won a state title with MC. Episode 20, Dave Granucci, great coach, really thoughtful about coaching and leading teams. Thought that was a really fun discussion. That's one that I go back to a lot just for tidbits on drills and managing teams. Then we had a two-parter with Alex Pribble, just energy and passion as a player and coach. He's the current coach at Idaho, Division I, Drake legend. Love Coach Prib. First of two with Jonas Honeck was episode 23. Jonas is just a guru of basketball. He's forgotten more than we'll ever know, as they say. Then we had Doug and Josh DeVore, another great high schooler who was a fun interview. Two great basketball players, great guys, really fun to talk to them. Carrie Barrett, Carrie Husbands, phenomenal player from Novato, played at Cal and is a very successful coach down in Southern California. That was a really fun discussion with her, and her husband Julian joined in. Then we had a couple episodes where we were getting into NCS and NorCals, where Duff, just you and I, kind of gave some updates. Didn't have any guests for a few. Then we had Will Venable and Jet Russell to talk about Santa Fe High history and playing for Brett Tavani. And obviously Will played at Princeton and is now managing in the coaching in Major League Baseball, long Major League Baseball career. Really fun discussion. Another one that we get a lot of feedback on, Adrian Shirk, Adrian Payne is her maiden name, talked about leading teams, being in the Army, being in combat, and the lessons she learned from playing basketball and how that applied to her experiences in the Army. Just a really unbelievable conversation. We had the legend Brett Tavani on we sat down with Brett twice. We had a lot of content. We had to cull it down into under 2 hours, but Brett, we could talk to him forever. What a great guy and a great conversation. Then we had another sit down with Jonas Honeck. And then we had Jace Butler and Mikey Claggett talking about Branson basketball. Jace at the time was committed to Illinois. He since has decommitted and now is going to go to University of Washington. That was a really fun conversation. And then just a few more. Dave Liss, we talked about prison ball and playing at San Quentin. And also Dave had some really interesting things to say about playing Division I and Division III basketball. Just a great guy, super articulate. Melissa Boyle, I think if you listen to one episode, you should listen to Melissa. She's an inspiration, just an incredible person who's going through unconscionably hard things and keeps a positive attitude. And I know this is an audio medium, not a video podcast, but Melissa was just smiling the whole time we're talking to her. Just an amazing person. And that's it. Those are all the guests that we've had until today.
Excellent. Great, Dave. Way to run that. And I'm getting all sorts of nostalgia, just kind of looking back at those early episodes. I would agree with you. If you're going to listen to one, I would listen to Melissa Boyle. It's already, even though it's only been out since April 12th, it's the third most downloaded episode out of season 1. So anyway, thanks again to Melissa for sharing her time with us. Just amazing given her circumstances. Dave, we're going to talk about some favorite moments, but I think maybe we'll just take a little break, give our sponsors like a little bit of love, and then we'll come back for some favorite moments of season 1 before we do our intro to the Mike Pritchard interview.
Take it away.
So first, just as a wrap up and a thank you to all the support we got in season 1 from our sponsors, I am going to introduce Heather Walker, my mother-in-law, as she will read a brief blurb on every sponsor we have had for season 1. Thank you, Heather, and take it away.
The RUN TMC Podcast would like to recognize and appreciate all of our season 1 sponsors. This podcast would not be possible without your support. Here we go. The Nike Summer Basketball Camps at San Domenico. Improve your game and have serious fun at Nike Basketball Camps. The Hub at Red Hill in San Anselmo. The happening Marin burger spot where locals come to dine, drink, and socialize. The NBBA, that is the North Bay Basketball Academy, with a mission to provide quality instruction in all aspects of basketball, with an emphasis on fundamentals and skill development. Medium, an online publishing platform for writers and for discerning readers. Jessie and Laurent, making fresh and delicious dinners for delivery. No matter how busy your life is, Jessie and Laurent can be your game-changing solution for time-saving meals. Karen Horstmeyer, Real Estate. Whether you are looking for a starter home or high-end move-up property, she will coach you through the process from the first consultation to the close of escrow. Now, is that okay or too fast?
That was beautiful, I thought. Holden?
Yeah.
So, Dave, I have to say, Heather, a bit of perfectionist, unlike you and I, where every once in a while we'll do 2 takes. She wanted to get that absolutely right. So I believe we did about 7 takes. And then ultimately I said to splice together in between sponsors so she could kind of take a breath, collect herself, and sort of nail the next sponsorship. Thank you. So anyway, thank you, Heather. good job. I'm not sure that she'll listen to this podcast, but I'll send it to her. And that might be her first podcast ever, if she does listen to it.
She's got the t-shirt. Duff, real quick, can we intersperse some of the latest content that we got from NBBA for their, we got Rick and Kyle Winter sent us a quick thing they wanted us to read. Are you ready to take your basketball game to the next level? Look no further than the North Bay Basketball Academy, or NBBA, your premier destination for youth basketball in Marin and Sonoma County. At NBBA, we're dedicated to helping young athletes achieve their full potential on and off the court. Our experienced coaches provide top-notch training, focusing on skill development, teamwork, and sportsmanship. And guess what? Summer is just around the corner, which means it's time to gear up for our camp and training offerings. Whether you're a beginner looking to learn the basics or an advanced player aiming to enhance your skill set, we have the program for you. Also, be sure to check out our upcoming fall travel season. Visit our website at northbaybasketball.com to check out our upcoming summer and fall programs, schedules, and registration details. That's www.northbaybasketball.com. See you on the court.
Very good. Thank you to Kyle Winter for providing us that copy. And they have a few ads banked for season 2. So we already know that NBBA will be back in the sponsorship lanes for our second season. So thank you to Rick and NBBA. We appreciate your support. The last thing on sponsors, I heard from Al Rossi, who played at San Rafael High School in the 1970s, I believe, it might have been 1960s. He has been a frequent emailer to the podcast, which we appreciate.
Great guy.
He wanted us, well, 2 things. First of all, he wrote and said that he went into the hub the other day and he told the gentleman who was running the joint that he was there for dinner because he listened to the RUN TMC podcast and he wanted to thank the gentleman, who I presume was Jerry Bugas, for sponsoring the podcast. So thank you, Al, for that note. Thank you, the hub, for sponsoring us all the way through. And then Al did also want us to mention his coach at San Rafael, legend in Marin, Mike Diaz, who was a coach at San Rafael from 62 to 73. And then his former player, Brett Tavani, took over after Mike moved on. He also had the record for a time for the most points scored in a single high school game of 64, which was later broken. And this, I think, was in the state, broken by Bill Cartwright with 66 points. And Mike, we hear, took a fall and broke some ribs recently. So we wish him well in his recovery. Broken ribs are no picnic, especially if you get several of them. So you want to make sure that you take care of what we call the pulmonary toilet, Dave, and make sure you take nice deep breaths and keep those lungs expanded so they don't consolidate down on each other. But we wish Mike the best, and hopefully he's got good pain control and he's rehabbing from that injury. And thank you, Al, for being a supporter of the podcast.
First of all, can we add pulmonary toilet to our list of glossary terms? That was a good one. Al is a great listener, and he does a great job of spreading the word. He sends emails out to a big group of people, and he's constantly telling them to listen to the RUN TMC podcast for walks down memory lane. So thank you, Al. And a reminder to listeners, in our Michelle Bravelli-Smith episode, we talk about Mike Diaz. She mentions that he was just a great coach for a really good San Rafael High School girls team. And she mentioned him that he scored those 64 points at Armijo High School and then went on to play at Cal and was just an unbelievable player, one of the best to ever do it in Marin. So we hope for a speedy recovery for Coach Mike.
Absolutely. All right, Dave. So we're going to just ping pong here with some favorite moments. There are a lot more that we could choose, but these are the first that came to our respective minds of our interviews. And we'll just trade off here. And in no particular order, our first interview with Jonas Honeck, when he was giving me and Archie Williams some advice as to how to defend this current juggernaut Branson Bull team from this year, who just decimated the MCALs. But we kept it a 7-point game. I think in some part to Jonas's advice, that and TT not playing that game.
That was the one moment in our season where the phrase, "Dave, I'm just going to hijack this interview right now," was uttered. And I thought that was great. And I love that you asked Jonas, "Hey, all right, how should we defend these guys?" And he gave you some good feedback. And I thought that was really fun. So that was a cool moment. Love that one. I'm going to start with, there's so many things I could honestly could say that every interview that we did, there were one or two moments at least where I said, I got to write this down, or I got to re-listen to this, or man, that was great. One that comes to mind for me was our conversation with Dibley, with Dan Dibley, which was just, I was kind of laughing the entire, 90 minutes. But when we retold the story of when Dibs was reffing my game, I was coaching a 5B girls CYO game. I was up 20, but I called timeout right before halftime because I wanted to run an out of bounds play. And Dibs just gave me so much grief as the ref. So I enjoyed us recounting that story.
Yes, that was a fun interview, and he was absolutely right. And that is absolutely you to do something like that, Dave.
It is.
Not even, I'm sure it was a good play.
It was
I believe the play worked, right?
Pick the picker, baby. It was awesome. All right, what's your next one?
Tyler Gaffney, loved this interview. Just such a thoughtful individual who is very meticulous in every aspect of his coaching, and just like a genuinely really nice guy and great coach. And he was just talking about how he had to learn how to coach in sort of a non-alpha way, without the yelling and the screaming and the pounding of the chest, and just how to adapt his coaching to his style and make that work. And I thought that was interesting and thoughtful, and definitely resonated with me as well. So that was a favorite moment for me.
I'm going to piggyback on that one. I still think about Tyler saying, I just want my guys to be present and resilient. And those are the two keys. And I just love that so much. And I say it to now the teams that I coach, just be present and resilient. Honestly, I say it to myself every day, just in life. So Tyler is wise beyond his years. It's annoying how young he is and how good he is. Okay, my next one, I love Dave Dineen's discussion, but his story about playing Brevin Knight, playing Stanford at Stanford, a game that I was attending as a fan, and where he actually asked Brevin Knight, like, hey man, can you let me get the ball past half court? I just thought that was really funny.
And a good lesson for all the kids out there. Sometimes all you have to do is just ask nicely.
Just ask the question. And Dave's like, he did. He let me do it. Okay, what's your next one?
Well, two moments which were just cool. I'll lump two together here. Is that, Mike Fulton, who coached me at Marin Academy with his dad, Larry, and Larry was father figure type to me growing up as a high schooler, really, helped me make that transition from bratty teenager to, somewhat mature teenager. And it was just cool to sit down with Mike and hear him talk about his dad and what his dad was like with Mike and Chris when they were young, and how he sort of was able to tread that line between father and coach to them. So that was great. And then also my brother, and hearing him tell a bunch of different NBA stories that I'd heard before, but hearing him tell them, on the podcast with you there, Dave, and in particular, the shooting contest with Steve Kerr, when Steve Kerr kind of came out of quote unquote retirement as GM for Phoenix, walked on the floor and just kind of lit it up from NBA 3-point range against my brother, who's a pretty darn good shooter in his own right. So those were both kind of, memories from my past that got relived in a way on the podcast that I thought was really cool.
That's beautiful. That's great. Yeah, that Steve Kerr story was awesome. I mean, Chris is the kind of guy, we will have him back on for sure. But I mean, you could just say, Chris, just go, just tell us stories, and we'll sit there, get a bowl of popcorn and listen, because he's been around the greatest players and coaches in the world, and he's such a keen observer. So that was a great story, and a great storyteller, obviously. My next one, I enjoyed thoroughly our discussion with Mike and Ashley Saya, but one of my favorite parts was near the end when I asked, all right, who wins a game of horse in the Saya household? And the answer was Grandma Jean, Mike's mom, and said she would, be cooking. She'd come out, nail a jumper, then go back in to the kitchen and finish dinner. So I thought that was a fun story.
And we didn't see that one coming. We didn't see that answer coming, did we, Dave?
True.
All right, I'm going to lump them together as well here, Dave. So multiple coaches that we had on, just talking about the beauty of simplicity, especially in, designing offense, and, the idea of just get the ball in the hands of your best player in a spot where they can do something, and let the rest of it play out. But we had Dave Granucci talked about, just sometimes you just got to be able to put it in the basket. Con Dunning and Tim Lacoste and others just talked about that, the simplicity of play and how you could really, muck things up and confuse things by trying to over engineer the game, which I think is a good lesson for any young coach, is to not overdo it with the playbook and not to overthink things. So that was the beauty of simplicity. And then composure, you mentioned it earlier. I'll just mention it again. I was just very impressed by each of the high schoolers that we had on and how articulate and composed and thoughtful they were. Owen Bugas, Josh DeVore, Jace Butler, and Jace Butler and Jake Vasquez. Yeah.
Totally agree. And by the way, we're going to have more high schoolers on, including we got Carly Amborn is going to be on over the summer. She's busy playing tournaments, but we definitely want to have some girls on as well. But yeah, I was really impressed with the composure of those kids. It's not easy to have two old guys barking questions at you, and they did a great job. And I totally agree on the simplicity thing. The Tim Lacoste, I think that was back, Duff, when we would do the whiteboard chalkboard moment. And we asked, all right, give us your best out of bounds plays. All right, cool. I got here it is. I give it to my best player and get out of the way. Yeah. So my next one, I know you've got one on Poser as well, but I thought Tom Poser was a outstanding guest. Don't tell him I said that because he's a good friend and will be annoyed. But I loved his discussion of playing pickup at the outdoor courts at Drake, which are legendary. And he told the story of the one day where he just happened to be on this team with, Buck Chavez and Eddie Joe and Pat Sandel and these guys who were just legends on the outdoor courts. And Tom was a high schooler. And he just said, I just learned that day if I cut to the basket and the ball would just be there right in my hand. And so learning about the value of playing basketball the right way and passing and cutting and movement and sharing the ball. I thought the way he said it was really articulate and beautiful. And it was a great message.
Yeah, Tom's a great guest. Having him and Jon Granucci on together was fun because they know each other so well and they could riff off each other. We'll have Tom back on to talk, we think, specifically about post play because he is such a student of the game and in particular the post game. But I also thought it's worth a listen to anyone who might be trying out going to an assessment, whether it be for CYO, NBBA, high school. Just go and listen to episode 2 when Tom, it's about midway through the interview where Tom just talks about what it looks like to show up to one of those assessments and do it the right way, being early and getting there and looking the coaches in the eye, having a firm handshake, playing hard, but not showing, stupid or false hustle. Just a lot of tips that I think are very useful for parents as well as for players. So, and Tom, as always, is very articulate in his expression of this type of advice.
Yep, absolutely. And then the last one that I have is, Melissa Boyle. I mean, just her discussion about appreciating the little things. And, it really kind of hit me in the heart bone when she said, she talks to people and she asks how they're doing and they say, things are just kind of boring. And she said, man, that sounds pretty good. So, for all of us, appreciate the little things, appreciate every day. It's a great message that oftentimes we forget. And Melissa did an incredible job of articulating that and was very generous with her time. And I'm very grateful that we had the chance to talk to her. So that was probably my favorite moment of all of our 38 episodes.
Yeah, that was, once again, Dave, you did a great job sort of just guiding that discussion. And she was amazing and just didn't even really matter the words she said so much, but the way she said them. And as you said earlier, Dave, that, she was on camera with us and she was smiling and just emanating this positivity in this particular period in her life and just really inspirational. We've used that word a lot, but I think each time we've used it, it's been deserved. So, all right. Well, we've been putting Mike Pritchard off for a little while. We do his intro in the interview, but just to talk a little bit about the themes, Dave, of this interview. Yeah. It was kind of wide ranging and we kind of let Mike be Mike. Mike is a comedian who had a chance to go to Hollywood and have a career in Hollywood. He was good friends with Robin Williams. He turned down those opportunities essentially to be a community activist and a teacher and a motivator in a bunch of different ways. So he gets into all that, but really the themes for this interview were, motivating our youth, our coaches, our players, talking about conflict resolution, bringing people together, talking about special needs in sports, both adult special needs as well as youth special needs, and then just Marin County basketball and his experiences as a parent of two boys who played basketball at Marin Catholic.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun discussion. I mean, I mentioned this in the interview, but I saw Mike Pritchard as a stand-up comedian when I was a kid. I went to the San Francisco comedy competition and I saw Mike Pritchard. I mean, I've known him since I was a kid, or known of him when I was a kid. He's a Marin celebrity. But I thought, in addition to the things that you talked about, Duff, with motivation, I really liked what he talked about for advice for parents in dealing with, if you have a kid who's playing basketball and maybe suffering from lack of confidence or challenges. And Mike's he's a one of one. I mean, he's energetic, and you'll hear his booming laugh, recites poetry off the cuff, is just an incredible person. I mean, he's performed in front of thousands and thousands of people, and you can see why he's so successful and has touched so many lives. So we're very fortunate to have him. Duff, you made that happen. So kudos to you. And I thought it was a really fun discussion and a great way to wrap up season 1.
Yeah, before we turn it over to Mike, we mentioned briefly in the interview the unified sport teams.
Yeah.
And these are teams that some of the high schools here locally have for different sports. They're co-ed teams that will mix special education students with, sort of non-special ed, and they will play together, and they will play a bunch of different sports. But for example, for boys and girls basketball, there were some tournaments here over the season runs its course over the whole school year. And Archie Williams has a basketball team, Redwood, TAM, and then Branson and the Helix School, they co-form a team. So it's really kind of a very cool way of bringing, student body together, which didn't exist, Dave, when you and I were in high school. And I just wanted to mention, and we have a quick snippet from him, Nico DeBishop, who is the team manager for Archie Williams basketball this year for the varsity team. He did our scoreboard in practices. He helped keep the clock in practices. He did our water. It is rumored that on occasion he would take his shirt off after a victory in the locker room. And he also plays on the Archie Williams unified team. And he just provided a quick snippet about why he likes playing for that team. We'll play it before we move on to the Mike Pritchard interview. So thank you to Nico and his dad, Ryan, who's a great supporter of the Archie Williams program as well. Really, really great people.
Love it. That's great. And I love that you got some words from Nico. So very, very cool.
Well, Dave, we didn't mention the fundraiser in that one important detail. Now that we're 40 minutes in.
Go ahead.
Sean Cannon Field will be dedicated on June 8th.
Yes.
And our friend Greg Livingood, it will be arranging for an AED at the field, we believe, prior to opening day. And we have made donation to the Ross Valley Little League to help make that happen. So we appreciate them working with us, and we're very excited about the dedication of Sean Cannon Field.
Yeah. And so that's a great segue into kind of the last thing I'll say before we get to Nico and then the interview with Mike Pritchard. Just a heartfelt thank you to all of our listeners for hanging with us. Those of you who bought shirts and donated to the fundraiser means a lot to us, means a lot to the community. And we're blown away by the support from our listeners who really value this community. So thank you again to everybody. And thank you to our guests for taking the time to be with us and to share your stories. We were just so blessed to have an amazing group of guests. We're excited for what lies ahead. We have an awesome list of people that we're targeting for season 2. We're always open to suggestions. So don't be shy. Email us, shoot us a message on Instagram, whatever. You know how to get a hold of us. All right. Our listeners have had enough of us, Duff. Let's get to Nico, and then let's get to Mike Pritchard.
Here we go.
Hi, my name is Nico. What I like about Unified Basketball is that we get to play other schools, and it allows people like me with different disabilities to play on a team when we may not be able to make our scores JV or varsity team.
All right, we're going. We are honored to be joined by Mike Pritchard. Mike, thanks for being here.
Coaches, I love being here with you guys. I've listened to your podcast. It's great. And it's informative and instructive and enlightening as well, because this is what we need to be doing in order to, I was, Duff, I was telling him earlier that, this is the greatest crime fighting tool in the world, sports. And it just shows over the years. I first worked in St. Louis and knew the more you get kids in the police activities league, Boys and Girls Club. I'm a guardsman in the city, and we build these camps to run up. And you got Boys and Girls Clubs, and then you got big brothers, big sisters. This is crime fighting at its best, because bored kids are kids that are in the wrong place, the wrong time, the wrong drugs, the wrong addictions. And so this is urgently important to my mission on planet Earth.
Well, thank you for saying that. And thank you for taking the time to be here. So if you can't tell, Michael Pritchard is an amazing speaker. So first of all, he's a stand-up comedian. I think I mentioned this to you, Mike, when we met before, but I saw you when I was a kid. Not to date myself or you, but I think it was the film. It was the San Francisco International
Comedy
Competition. Yeah. So
1980.
You blew me away. I thought it was hilarious. Duffy already has an item.
Well, and I have seen you more recently when I was a young adult in Mill Valley on Tuesday nights, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's Throckmorton.
Throckmorton. Yeah. Robin and I and all the wonderful young men and women of comedy.
So Michael's a stand-up comedian. He's also, more importantly, a youth counselor, an advocate of social emotional learning. He speaks to schools, parent groups, corporations on communication skills, diversity, bullying, and conflict resolution. It's just an amazingly inspirational speaker and figure. He was a U.S. Army medic during the Vietnam War in the 1970s. He worked as a youth counselor, and you were named in 1980, Mike, the California Probation Officer of the Year.
Yeah. Everybody's rolling their eyes as you read.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So he won the 1980 San Francisco International Comedy Competition, and then had a career in show business. We were just talking about, he was in the show Taxi, famous show. Worked as a voice actor in some Star Wars movies, was in Sesame Street, really on the path to a career in show business. An incredible stand-up comedian. He's performed alongside his good friend Robin Williams. We're going to talk about his experiences with Robin, but also Jerry Seinfeld, Dana Carvey, Whoopi Goldberg, various others. He's played Comedy Store in Hollywood. He's played Caesars. He's played clubs all over, opened for Diana Ross, The Grateful Dead, Kenny Rogers. So this guy was amazing, but could have gone full bore into Hollywood, but decided instead to dedicate his efforts to helping people and community. So stepped away from Hollywood, and for years he's been a speaker. He's been working with inmates. He's been working with kids. He's made several important TV series related to topics such as the Columbine school shooting that occurred in the late 1990s. He's received countless honors. Stuff, we'd be here for hours if we ran down all the honors, but including one that I liked was the key to the city of San Francisco.
Oh, that was...
You still have that?
Is that in your back?
One of let me tell you the funniest part of that. Frank Jordan and I, the chief of police and then the mayor, we were very good friends. And, I campaigned for him when he ran for mayor, and he and I were very close. And in fact, he was the director. He's a young lieutenant. One of my best friends is a guy by the name of Bernie Shaw, who married Patricia Hearst.
Oh, wow.
He was a San Francisco police sergeant.
Yeah.
And Frank was his boss in community services. And I will tell you that Frank showed up in my house after he had left office, and in the greatest ceremony, because I don't like formal, I'm not a formal guy, he tosses me in my living room the key to the city of San Francisco, and he goes, "I forgot to give you that, by the way." And I put it up on the mantle, and my wife thought I stole it. Yeah. And she says, what? I go, no,
give it back.
I go, my name's on there. But I told him, I said, "Frank, that's the greatest ceremony I've ever been part of."
That's great.
I tell you. And that was actually, ironically, somebody questioned, how did you get somebody asked me one time, how did you open for the Pope? And I go, we have the same agent. But
That's great.
you have to laugh as you roll along.
Yeah.
And for me, the awards aren't really as important as the moments with the kids in my neighborhood, the people in my immediate neighborhood, the kids in Marin County, the kids in the city,
Yeah.
and then the kids I work with. And, what you guys are doing is so urgently important for coaching and to help coaches. I try to go on with coaches everywhere, the big guys and everybody.
Yeah.
And I love just talking about the impact of sports on teaching optimism. Now, one day I was talking to a little kid and I go, try the word optimist stoic. Try to be stoic in your optimism. And he goes, yeah, well, we're Gen Zs and we live in a constant state of anticipation. And I go, how do you build hope in anticipation, right?
Yeah.
And you got to be able to try and know that you can win, you can accomplish, and not just be a survivor, but a prevailer, overcomer. And that's what sports teaches all the time.
Beautiful.
Really urgently important.
Beautiful. Great words. I'll finish up here. So Mike's been on he's been on CNN, NBC, The Today Show, The Tonight Show, Sunday Morning, Time Magazine, People Magazine. He's made several educational series for PBS, which have been seen by millions, focused on youth guidance in the areas of violence prevention. And then relative to this podcast, Mike is a longtime Marin resident. His sons played basketball at Marin Catholic for our friend Rick Winter. In fact, Duffy and I ran into Mike at a Pete's Coffee a couple months ago when we were sitting down with Rick.
Give Pete's a chance.
There you go. You're a member, Mike, of the Marin IJ editorial board.
Yep.
Very cool. And you've played some hoops yourself. We're gonna get into your
we could do that.
your hoops experience.
I will tell you, I have loved playing basketball with adult developmentally delayed folks for at least 55 years to teach how to get out of depression.
Amazing.
It's been, they love it. When you go to St. Quentin and you see the guys, we had one of our young Down syndrome guys walked up at San Quentin and looked up at the street baller up there, and he and the referee gets ready to throw the ball up, and he goes, "You all mine, badass." And they said that was the first time that convict didn't laugh in years. And even the guard walked over. He goes, "I've never seen that guy laugh." That was pure magic. And I said, that's what being around angels provides.
Yeah.
And playing basketball. And we don't keep score, but we keep hearts lifted. And that's what I love about what basketball can do. And then making really tough competitors come down and play with us.
Right.
And they get it. Right away, they get it.
Love it.
There's something bigger than basketball in the world.
That's fantastic.
And we brought in some great basketball players to play with them, and they just look over and you're like, yeah, I get it.
You talked about San Quentin. Our friend Dave Liss we had on, and Dave regularly goes down and plays at St. Quentin against the inmates.
Yes.
And we talked to him about that, and it just sounded like what a rewarding experience for him. I mean, it's really one of the things that he is really proud of, and it's really cool. The
mildest amount of encouragement from a professional athlete anywhere sends hope as an injection into the spirit of anybody anywhere. And just that they talk to you or you spend time with them, they are so, and every time I brought in a great basketball player or great football, I brought in Spinning Johnson, who was Spencer Johnson. If you look him up, he was Harlem Globetrotter. Yeah. And he used to play for the Washington team that played against him. 5'6",
Washington Generals.
Yeah. And he was, oh my God, we went in there and played, and I went all over the state with him. And I went to my kids' school at St. Isabella's, and they loved him. They still talk about Spinny Johnson. And I saw him recently at a friend, Rich Friedman passed away, and he was the one who booked us. And he was the Vallejo Times editor and sports writer. And Spinny's in his 80s now, and he got up and spoke, and he said just that we got the chance to be together, traveling up and down the states. We went all the way up to Redland, Ashland, and they would watch him spin the balls, and it was magic to watch that happen with these kids because it sends hope and it sends heart. Yeah.
Go, Duff.
Can we stay on this and dig
Yeah.
a little deeper? And
Do it.
can we start just at the beginning, like when you first started playing basketball, with these guys and gals, and like how you got started and where it went from there?
Well, I was a probation officer, and they call it deputy juvenile probation officer in St. Louis, Missouri, where I grew up. And I grew up where they had the riots in Ferguson and Delwood right there, and they burned the whole portion of Delwood down. But that was my neighborhood, and I worked there with the kids. And one of the great gifts of getting hardened kids, and we used to have a fellow who was a friend of mine named Ron Jones, who wrote all these books. They made movies about what he wrote. And we would try and prove to them that if you take special needs folks and folks who are Special Olympics to play basketball, sports, with even the most aggressive competitors, they get it. Their mind downshifts into optimism and spirituality and connection to the greater good. And that is a miracle, because some of the kids that are competitors have, I know this is hard for you guys to believe, coaches, narcissistic tendency.
Never.
And the old line is, how many narcissists does it take to screw in a light bulb? One, he stands still and the world revolves around him. So what you learn is that when you take these folks in and show them, we play basketball, we play Navy SEALs, we played cops, firemen, we played paramedics, and everybody universally is the same. They always look over at me because I'm doing the announcing and screaming and yelling at them, and they're just so excited. And when I first got Robin Williams, because he said, why is it that I feel so at home here, so connected, so anchored? And I said, because everywhere else in the world, you're on give. But here you're on receive. They don't care who you are.
So you had just because you had Robin Williams out there playing hoop with you guys.
Oh, we had.
You're playing pickup basketball with
Robin Williams. Basketball, and he pulled my pants.
Of course he did.
It's because he's Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And everybody's howling, laughing. They just loved him. He was so irascible. And when he first came, he felt a little awkward. He was trying to figure it out.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he was in, and then you could feel him leaving. Every time he left, there was no depression in him, no sadness. No, he figured out where he belonged most, and that's with neurodiverse brains. And it was obvious because he was the king of not only pathos, but also compassion. And he taught those in every film he ever made. And you could see it when he first did Good Morning Vietnam. You could see it when he did Good Will Hunting. You could see it when he did Dead Poets Society.
Absolutely.
And so here's a guy who's connected to teaching with pathos. And I used to I can still perform in front of the special needs folks and tell them the same stories, and they laugh and they sit there. And, one of the things I used to tell was that when you first realize how important it is for us to make sure folks are included and members of the team, I taught team is together, anyone matters. And I taught that for 40 years with the San Francisco Junior Giants, that everybody counts, everybody's included. And so when you're teaching sports, make sure that kid on the team who everybody else might leave out, make sure he feels included, welcomed, loved, appreciated, and valued. When you do that, your team can excel, because if you've learned that from a special needs person, so much for the kid who has trauma and domestic violence in his background, addiction and domestic violence, when they feel included. Every miracle, I always tell kids, don't quit 1 minute before the miracle happens. Well, here's the miracle. When they realize that the kid you least expect is going to step up and take that shot from 35 feet out and hit, magic. Nothing like it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Robin Williams again, because you sent us this photo.
Yeah, that's a great photo.
And
I love
there's
that.
a photo. I'll just describe the photo, but in the front is Robin. He's got his mouth wide open. Pure joy. He's got his arms up in the air. Yeah. And then, they're in a gym. I don't know what gym it is. Maybe you could tell.
Hall Middle School. It's at Hall Middle School in Puerto Madera. Yeah.
All right. We know that gym well.
Yeah.
The lights seem to be dimmed a little bit. But there's some, people in the background. They've got their arms raised, and they're
We
also
dim the
smiling.
lights. It's what it is. It's the halftime show with this guy Ethan, who just he's got what is, President Lincoln had Marfan syndrome, so you have a hard time smiling.
Yeah.
But this guy gets up and he's just like this. And when you watch him and people come, we play music, of course. We're playing wild music, and we bring high school students and college students in there, and they cry. And the reason they cry is because you see this guy dancing in front of everybody, and everybody's clapping for him. And even though he is not smiling, Ethan, you can feel him spiritually be so connected to the crowd, enthusiastically supporting his heart and efforts. There's nothing like that in the world. And Susan Williams, Robin's wife, and his two sons, Casey and Peter, they were standing there. They were looking. They go, "Wow, this is unreal." And I go, "Yes, that's the point. This is where you come to get joy."
Yeah.
And that's what it was for him and for other athletes that we bring in there. We had, the one of the great famous rock and rollers came in, and he just stood there. I won't mention his name, but he just said, "This is one of the best nights of my life." And I said, "Yeah, because you're not connected." And a great athlete, the kids were standing there, and he came in. I love him. He's from a great family, and one of the guys goes, "Hey, there's a famous golfer here tonight, a famous golfer." I go, "Who's the famous golfer?" And he goes, "Johnny Mosley. Johnny Mosley's here." And I go, No, he's here. He's here. And the family full nights. And he goes, "Oh yeah, well, he sucks at basketball. He sucks because he wore cowboy boots." I go, "He didn't know he was going to play, Greg. Stop." And we're howling, laughing. And Robin was sitting there. And I go, "I didn't know who we were talking about. I thought you were talking about him." And Greg looks over at Robin Williams, who's wearing a stocking cap, and goes, "Who's he?" And I go, "Well, he's working on that."
So while we're on the topic of Robin, I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but I'll keep it somewhat brief. But obviously, one of the great actors, comedians in history. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, I was even going to mention that. Just one of the funniest people in history, but also what depth his characters he played. There's a lot of emotion. So discuss being in his orbit. I mean, you've seen this, but just what was it? What was it like being?
Well, for me to have a friend who needed, and I had already experienced this stuff in show business, and I was not happy with it. I was, you can't be an Irish Catholic probation officer who'd been in the seminary, worked in the military, taking care of dying and wounded, and then move into Hollywood and try to see what they thought was important.
Right. A little perspective.
Yeah. You're like, oh, man. Yeah. And my lawyer, John Frankenheimer, was great. He used to look at me, and he would send me to people that would say, "Get out of Hollywood, get out of Hollywood." The famous people, One of them was the guy who created Barney Miller. And, and he was the greatest guy. He was a combat vet from the Marine Corps and World War II. And he called me and Danny Arnold, and he said, "Okay, go home. Go home, live a life, have a bunch of kids and grandkids, have a life. Go home."
Yeah.
Because I'll be hiring guys to put words in your mouth you'd never say. And I left there and I got on the plane, and that was it.
Good advice.
Because it was a great advice. Yeah, it was, David, that was the greatest advice ever. Danny Arnold saved my life, I think. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's right. That rings true to me. He goes, you're not gonna like being here around all this. And I thought, okay, got it.
One of the things about, go ahead, Duff.
Well, we may come back to Robin, but since we were talking about him, and since it's a basketball podcast, I'd like you, if you would, describe his basketball game.
Yes,
and then give us an NBA avatar for Robin Williams. So who did he play like? Was he kind of like Shaq, where he would just and shed the defenders with those hairy arms and just like have people just pop off of him?
He loved playing. He was not that great. He was not a great shot, but he was pretty good ball handler. And then the kids loved being in opposition to him. And we're talking kids in their 50s and 60s.
Was he? I assume he was commenting the entire time he's playing.
No, he was intensely trying to he was competing with them and tormenting, and he does what I do. You torment him, have fun, and then you're laughing. And when he would play, he wasn't a basketball player, but he was an amazing athlete. He had run track and he had been a wrestler. And what made you believe in him more than anything else was immediate connection to the young students who would come in to play against our special needs people.
Yeah.
And he would tell them what not to do. And that was when he was at his, and they focused. When he talked, they listened. And he'd say, don't, let them shoot. Let them shoot. Look at me. Let them shoot. Let them shoot. And we would cheer. We'd cheer and we would hand the ball back to them. And this one fella who's likely funny, this one young doctor was there with his brother, and he was, a remarkable UCSF guy who played every week with his brother, who was very severely autistic. And Robin and he had this great relationship. And eventually Robin met him again in life, and he and his wife, and we just sat and thought, miracles unfold right in front of us because he needed the expertise. And I think one of the great things is that you notice that his heart was so stoic and strong and smart and wise that even when suffering at its best, he was still coming and showing up and playing ball because it lifted his spirits. And it is important for everybody to keep in motion, keep laughing, keep having fun, and believe in the earth, mirth, rebirth. And that's what he did. And he believed in that. He believed that humor was a healing tool. For years, I did the Healing Power, Laughter, and Play conferences with people out of Stanford, John Piaget, and we would travel all over the country for AIDS patients and doctors to lift their spirits and to do stand-up and stuff like that. And that's where I met Patch Adams, and Robin met him and did the movie about him.
Right.
And it was great because Patch was a remarkable spirit. But the key is watching Robin play, and at anything that he did, he was masterful at human interaction with people. And to inspire them. Inspire comes from the Greek word to breathe in the spirit, inspire. And you could always, when you were around him, breathe in the spirit of Robin Williams.
So his ability to improvise and riff. I mean, I was at a stand-up show and Robin Williams just showed up.
Yeah.
He would do that, right? And he'd get on stage and then he would absolutely kill for 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just working the crowd.
Right.
So that ability to improvise, is that solely natural talent, or did he work on that?
I think both. I think you have to work on it, but I think that one of the things is a neurodiverse brain. I have ADHD, and I used to talk about this all the time. And I would tell him, I would give him things to read and stuff. There's a story about a guy by the name of, here's the story. He wrote this book called The Edison Gene, about the importance of neurodiversity and studying neurodiversity and knowing what it extended out into the community. And he wrote a book, about this because he had a son who had ADHD. And in this one small town back east, at the time it was a small town, this guy went on and he, with the fourth grade educated, created the first philosophical society, the first debating society, their first lightning rods, the first eyewear, the first stoves. He created the first studies of currents in the stream, in the ocean. He created the first national garden, the first banking system, the first press and newspaper in that local town. And then he invented electricity studies. And had he been born now, he'd have been marginalized, told he was not too bright, had bad grades, and might have been either incarcerated or left in a job that was not worthy of his brilliance. And his name was Dr. Benjamin Franklin. And with no education, fourth grade education, they referred to him as Dr. Franklin. And this is what I would tell Robin. I'd say, there's genius. And, this is what neurodiversity brings. You'll see it in athletes. There's a really good basketball movie. I don't know if I think I try to get you guys to watch it. It's called Somewhere in Queens. And Yeah, somewhere in Brooklyn or Queens. But it's Ray Romano, and he's a basketball dad. He's the most marvelous guy, sweet, simple construction worker dad, and he have a construction company with Justin Maniscalco, his younger brother, who's in charge of everything. And then he has a son who's a great basketball player. He's awkward. He's shy. He's quiet. And they call him Sticks because his legs are real thin, but he's tall. And the kid can hit from a million miles out, right? And the father's so proud of him, but can't say. And he's vicariously living through him and his success and saying, look at this. And it adds incredible pressure to them. But what's important for everybody to know is if you back off that pressure, let them have their failures. Let the coach yell at them. Let them feel angry and isolated and they're learning their internals. And why that's important to the athlete is the conversation isn't with you and your dad and you and your mom, you and your coach. It's with you. And that was taught me by a little kid. I said, what do you think? I said, we shouldn't overstand. We should try to understand. And he goes, wait, Mr. Pritchard, what about understanding? Wouldn't that as well be important? I went, whoa.
Nice. Yeah.
A little kid teaches you more than all your college professors and coaches, right? Understanding. We have to look inside for the answers. The answer is, am I going to quit this guy because he's abusive? Or am I going to be smart and wise and learn something so valuable that the next time something comes my way that's hard and harsh, I refuse to quit because it might save millions of lives. And that sounds preposterous, but I've watched it unfold.
Yep. As a practical question, as a parent, when you're in a shooting contest with your kid when they're young or one-on-one, what's the right approach to letting them win occasionally, always letting them win, never letting them win?
Both. Doing what you can. I remember, what's really great, Doc? I was sitting there one time. Mike, I was always positive with the kids. Son gets in the thing. He didn't like soccer that much, but he was playing. And he went around the kid. He was a great athlete, the oldest one. And so was the second one. But he went around this guy 5 times and scored. And he got in the car and he goes, "Do you see that kid? He punched me, kicked me, tripped me. You see that kid? You see?" I said, "You scored on that kid 5 times. He was humiliated. He didn't know what to do. He was angry. He was resentful of you. And he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to handle it. He'd never had somebody humiliate him like that." And I said, "Just lighten up a little bit." And he goes, "Dad, can I just hate him for 5 minutes before you tell me he has a dysfunctional home life?"
Right.
So I started laughing. When we went to see the Emilio Estevez movie, Mighty Ducks, I took a bunch of his friends, and that's what you bring the team. Get them to believe in team. Do things together as a team, and don't leave the little kid who picks his nose in right field and pays no attention out. Make sure he comes with you and do not let him be shunned or shamed or picked on, because someday he might be the emergency room physician who saves your life. He might be the paramedic and the firefighter that saves your dad's life. We're all included. It's a neighborhood, brother. Live like that. Live like that, sister. Yeah. And so when I watched him, he's watching the movie and his buddies are sitting around him, and Emilio Estevez, he goes, "Coach, I don't want to take this shot. I don't want to take this shot. I'm scared." And he goes, "What if I miss?" And he goes, "Whether you miss the shot or you make the shot, I believe in you." That's what you teach your kid.
Powerful. Yeah.
And then my son goes, "Oh, my dad wrote this movie." And that's why he's a comedy writer today.
So you've obviously spent a lot of your life dealing with motivation.
Oh, yeah.
And so for this podcast, we have players who are listening. We have coaches. We have parents. So let's start with players, because I think this is an interesting topic, right? You have some players who, like what I was like as a player, like I didn't have a lot of confidence when I played.
Right.
So how do you, you've already hit on some of this, but what advice would you give kids who are playing basketball right now and they're nervous? They're not confident on the court.
I always tell them to put up a little bit of yellow stickum paper right on the mirror that said, "I am driven, but I am the driver." And then believe that.
Yeah.
And know that you are responsible for this. Forget about what everybody else does. You're responsible for your actions on the field. not too long ago. I was over at St. Isabella's and I was saying, Brock Purdy's like, this guy's magic. He's sweetness. He lifts the entire Bay Area. I was watching Talbot write about that, the guy who wrote the book in San Francisco, the just a great writer, David Talbot, just the Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch, yeah, of course.
And just a remarkable spirit and a good man.
Great man.
And he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
And, I was trying to express to all of these folks out there that when you see a kid who you don't know has the ability to do this and you find a way to encourage their heart, and cour is the French word for heart, encourage, gives strength to the heart, not discourage, take strength away.
Right.
Teach the players on the team, everybody's responsible for the build up, not the put down, the build up, not the put down. And I was over at the school and I said, we're not going to pray, guys. And I had K through 3 there. This was the funniest moment of sports competition in the world. I got all these little kids on the floor and I'm doing all the things. They're laughing really hard. And I said, we're not going to pray for Brock Purdy to win the Super Bowl. We're going to pray for Brock Purdy to stay safe and be well and guide the other guys on the team to be good people. And this little kid, and he's like incredulous. He's like, the face is conflicted. He's like, what? The super, like I start laughing and I go, what? And he goes, well, anyway, go Brock Purdy, go Niners. And I burst out. I was sitting there because he had to say that in front of the rest of the school. We gotta win. And I teach kids, great to win, better to be accomplished at what the mission is in life, to be good human beings, great competitors, and the best ship to sail on, sportsmanship.
So related to this, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but so back motivation. So I love that. I'm going to remember that sticky note message. I need that for myself. So we got players who lack confidence. How about parents of players? So you yourself you were a basketball dad.
Yep.
We're going to get to that. I want to know
I was in trouble
what Mike Pritchard was like in the stands. But so what advice would you give parents who maybe see that they have kids who are playing sports and are struggling, or they're dealing with tough coaches, or they're lacking confidence? What advice would you give parents?
All 3 of those. You can just tell them, allow them to breathe.
Yeah.
Don't hover over. Your job is not the helicopter over the situation. They're going to have bosses they don't like. They're going to have, people in their lives that they're not particularly fond of. Lighten up on yourself to lighten up on them. Their success is not your success.
Yeah.
Their achievements are not your achievements. Allow that to be. There's a great poem. Your children are not your children, but the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. And although they come through you, they are not from you. Although they live with you, they belong not to you. You can give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have thoughts of their own. You can house their bodies, but not their souls, for they live in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You can strive to be like them, but seek not to make them be like you. For life goes not backward nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bow from which your children as arrows are sent forth. And the archer, Hashem, sends those off into the future. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for he loves the arrow that flies forward, but so does he love the bow that is stable. And in parenting, we're not going to see what they do. We're not going to watch what happens for them. We're not going to be here when they get their doctorate degree. They're when they stop and risk and save a life, like Robin did in What Dreams May Come. And you have to be willing to risk everything to make sure you love yourself. And one of the things is to risk incurring the wrath of your parents' disappointment. And you never, and this is what I tell parents all the time, do not allow your disappointment to turn into disillusionment. It means to take the light out of. Do not allow your kids' light to be, don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. Become the light going through the tunnel. Glow in the dark as you go. Even in the hardest of times, in the worst season, you can watch that kid get up and hit a home run who you never expected to hit a home run. You can see that kid come off the thing, and the coach is like, oh, why not? What can I lose? I got to put him in. And the kid hits a 45-foot, nothing but net shot. And he cries. The coach cries because he goes, what if I'd have believed in him just a little bit more? But his dad is sitting up in the stands going, wow, that just happened for me.
Yeah.
And that's the point. So if you keep your mouth shut and encourage, and you don't hover, and allow them to have their failures, and when the team's not doing well and they're not doing well, just encourage the heart. I believe in you. Beautiful. Whether you miss the shot or make the shot, I still believe in you.
So for the record, Mike here was not reading that poem. He just had that. That's pretty impressive. Go ahead, Duff.
Neurodiversity.
There you go.
I was going to mention the same thing, but I'm also going to ask about guardrails. So, and in particular, attitude.
Really well put. Yeah.
So, if you see your kid on the bench and they're not playing, they're pouting, right? Because they're not in the game. As a parent, how do you handle that? It's tough.
Who are they pouting for, Doc? They're pouting for you. They want you to notice that they're pouting. I'm disappointed in me, and you should be defending me to that coach. And that's not how that rolls, because I love you. I love everybody out there, folks. But some days you get off the bus at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, and Sergeant Arlie Ermey is standing there, and he ain't got time for your squalls, right? And he's trying to make it point. My dad was a World War II guy. He had many, many great statements like, stop crying before I give you something to cry about. If everybody else jumped off the bridge, would you?
Right.
And my favorite, you want me to turn this car around right now? He was tough, and we need discipline. But what we need is discipline with intelligent compassion. You don't demean a kid, shame a kid, shun a kid, ostracize a kid to try and get your power back to become a great coach and have a great reputation. If you do that, it will be ruinous to you. And there's an old line by a great writer, Obadiah. He said, though you soar with the eagles and make your nest amongst the stars, even then I can come for you and bring you down. Every coach should have that up somewhere.
Yeah.
Because your job is to encourage. But karma has your address, my brother. Karma has your address. The word will get out if you're being abusive or mean-spirited, rude, cruel, and ostracizing. It comes back on you, and you'll be exposed. And that's what I try to tell people all the time. I said, I had a dad come to me, and he said, this kid's demeaning my kid and calling him names that are offensive to me because it feminizes him and it hurts him. And I said, okay. And I said, here's what I do. Nothing. He's going to face that in life.
Yeah.
But you tell him, I'm with you. I'm right here beside you. I hear him when he talks to you like that. Tough for him, because that comes back. Because as you say, the angels circle and you got a GPS on your soul. You ain't getting away with nothing. The boss upstairs has it, and that's who you allow it to be. And it has never failed me. When you see a coach who's abusive or mean, it eventually gets exposed, not by the sports writers,
right,
but by the athletes themselves who go, man, they may have won championships, but I wound up wounded. I wound up disappointed, disillusioned, angry, and vitriolic. And I felt like my heart was used as toilet paper.
Yeah. There's a very successful coach who seems to embody a lot of what you're talking about. His name is Ted Lasso.
Yes. Yeah, I love that kid. Yeah, I love that guy.
How do you feel like this show captures what a coach should do?
Well, that's where I grew up. I grew up in the Midwest in Kansas City and Missouri, and I worked a lot, and I had worked with these young coaches back there in Kansas City. And what I try to express to them is, one of the kids, I said, try and give me a word. Give me a word. And he goes, abso-pazo. I go, what's that? And he goes, absolutely, positively. I go, that should be a T-shirt everywhere. Abso-pazo. And what you learn is that attitudinally, if you have to go and get your SEALs to take a hill, you have to be that, Murphy guy who knows I may risk or lose my life for my men, but I will do so to show them how we must live, because if we don't live that way, who are we? And that's what Mr. Murphy did in Lone Survivor. And I had one of the young Marine sergeants who was his trainer at my house this year, and he has a mutt named Murph, and he trained him. And his sister is Robin Williams' personal assistant for years with her husband Danny. And I try to tell people all the time, we never know where we're headed in life, but who you come in contact with and what you have the ability to do to help them. I was up here at Hamilton. There's a second grade kid. And I go, hey, guys, you don't have to blow someone else's candle out to make sure yours shines brighter. And there was two boys who were bullying this little neurodiverse kid, Amir. And she goes, Mr. Mike, if you do go around bullying people and blowing out their candle, eventually you'll be the one in the darkness. Second grade kid just taught me more than all of my coaches and professors in college, right? Yeah. That's the point. And when you know that a kid and I said, look at me, you're going to be the greatest teacher ever. And she goes, I believe so. And you see it in kids. They have the ability to become what you encourage them to become, because it's about the heart and courage. And you have to learn, and all I have to do is just keep telling stories and doing stupid Star Wars voices in front of them, and they'll all hyper-focus. Because when I was a kid growing up, I was an ADHD kid. I had lots and lots of problems with grades. I couldn't focus. And it wasn't until years later that Miss Spielberg, Kathy Spielberg, gave me a test, 28 ticks. And I went, this is me. This is me. I have ADHD. I was 32 years old. I had a college degree. I go, I can't believe them. She goes, that's why Robin made you come here to this school. And I said, really? And she goes, yeah, because he's learning different. And I go, she goes, we saw your show. And she goes, this guy, you need to come talk to the kids. And I did. And I was like in shock. When I took that test, every tick of every 28 questions, that was me. And I was a kid who couldn't focus, who couldn't do math.
Were you always funny? Like even back in Vietnam, are you
always funny?
Always situations with humor?
Always making fun, having fun. And they all love me, because if you have somebody who's really badly injured, what you need more than medicine is humor,
distraction,
and mirth, and laughter and goofiness. And, they would look at me and I'd be doing goofy things. That's how I learned. And Joel Selden, the writer for the Chronicle, said, Pritchard gets up and he has no material and nothing to say other than he throws himself around with spastic abandon, making goofy faces. And he goes, and the crowd loves him. And so do I. And that, what you have to find that, and whatever you can do to ameliorate the suffering in the world, do so. You're always trying to find a way to make people laugh, lift them, shift them, and gift them.
So you deal with people and you help people who have gone through traumas, PTSD, school shootings, and you use humor.
Yes.
Right. So how do you strike that balance between bringing mirth and distraction and enjoyment to these people, but then also acknowledging the weight of what they're going through?
Every team, every coach should bring their kids to Ronald McDonald House. I worked with Randy Cross, who was a good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And we did so much work together at Ronald McDonald House with his golf tournament. Then he started with the tennis. But what was great was at Stanford, and they built this huge center. But it was because I was telling everybody that Cross and I had this great relationship about laughter. And he told the story about Joe Montana. At the end of the game, he's getting ready they're going to score with the Dwight Clark thing. And he says he comes back to the huddle with Harris Barton. And Barton tells the story too, and so does Randy. And he says, hey, you guys, who's up there behind the
John Candy.
Yes, he goes, John Candy. And they go, Joe, focus.
Yeah.
We're on a drive. Focus, Joe. We all know that kid in the huddle.
Yeah.
We all know that kid, like when I was coaching little girls basketball, I said, all right, you go, you keep throwing the ball up and you try and get the rebound. You do this. And they all go, all 8 of them. Am I in?
Welcome to coaching. Exactly.
Yes, you're all in. Go right.
You're all in, everybody. Just go out. Just all 8 of you. Go ahead.
So I wanted to read you something that Rick Winter wrote about you.
Okay.
Our good friend Rick. Both of Mike's boys played for me at Marin Catholic. Connor was a co-captain and a tough, hard-nosed player that did everything I asked of him. Typically, he was guarding post players when he was giving up 4 to 5 inches and 30 to 40 pounds. It didn't matter, though. He was tenacious. He was on my 2000 team that became the foundation for our run of 4 straight MCAL titles from 2001 to 2004. Brian was a role player that came off the bench and provided a spark on my 2003 MCAL championship and NCS runner-up team. Also tough and could finish around the rim. Unfortunately, he was playing behind 2 very good post players, including a 6'8" kid who went to Northern Colorado.
Yeah.
Corey Lowe. Mike was a fantastic parent. I don't think I ever heard one negative word come out of his mouth. He was incredibly supportive of Marin Catholic, serving as the MC at numerous fundraisers that raised tens of thousands of dollars for our kids. He spoke at numerous student assemblies, parent group gatherings, and anything else the MC administration asked of him. The message was always the same: to share love, kindness, and compassion with each other. Mike is just an incredible human being. Both of his boys are just like him. Fantastic people.
Thank you very much for reading that.
So with all that said,
mean a lot. Yeah.
Let's go back, transport us back to you're in the stands. Brian and Connor are playing. What's Mike Pritchard like in the stands?
I'm all
at the refs.
The worst thing for me, I'm always around the firefighters who were always Don Russo and Tom Kuhn, and Kevin's the deputy chief in the city. And we're laughing really hard. And if the I was told you guys early, if the guy made a bad call, I go, lens crafters, 2 for 1. You can get really brand new glasses. You'll be able to see the fouls when they happen. And I have a voice that would hit the whole gym, and everybody burst out laughing. You don't want to, you just want to have fun. And, I remember one time there was Don Russo was coaching a baseball game, and Russo had been a great baseball player. He was a firefighter and paramedic in the city. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was a strike and everything. And the guy goes, yeah! And everybody goes, I go, wow! He just said that out loud. And everybody burst out laughing. And the guy, he didn't want to turn around and look to see, because they're howling laughing.
Of course.
And he goes, and this is my favorite part. He turns around and goes, oh, you. I was like, let's see. In the 56th, oh, you. And Russo goes, oh, you's here. Oh, you's right here, sitting next to me. Oh, you's going to let you have it. This is what you have to do. Don't hurt them until they become angry, but support their better decisions and the angels of their higher nature.
Of course. Okay, so Mike, you're such a energetic, positive person. What are your daily routines? What?
One of the first things I know, I pray a lot. I pray. I have a rosary that my son got me. He was in Slovakia on the Ukrainian border. His wife's ancestry is Slovakian. And we have a little beautiful Irish and Slovakian granddaughter, Runa Eve. And what I try to tell people is, if you rise in the morning in positivity with prayer on your lips and a song in your heart, and you're listening to nature, I live right on it's hard to believe, I live on a huge marsh preserve on the canal and right by Santa Margarita Island. And I hear giant egrets landing in the middle of the canal. And I said, when I was young and I had seen so much violence and I'd worked so many school shootings, and the one school shooting that I worked, I filmed at both Santa Fe and San Marin High. That was paid for by See's Candies from Warren Buffett and Chuck Huggins, who was a World War II combat paratrooper. And they saw what I was doing with kids. And so I went and I filmed up there, and then I filmed down there. And I'm still working for one of the kids who's right here on 125 Mitchell. He has his own studio, and I go and worked with him, Trevor Henley. And he was a great baseball and basketball player. I had all the basketball players on the things, and I used to share with them, I don't care. This is the line by John Wooden. Sports don't build character, they reveal it. Right. And, when the curtain goes up, you want to be getting applause, not for what you've accomplished, but for who you are. Simple.
Love that.
And
Yeah.
I see so many. Coach Harbaugh, who has two sons he was at Southeast Missouri,
Yeah.
where I went to school. When I was inducted into the college alumni, merit award, to a Marine Corps general named James Conway, who was the commandant of the Marine Corps, and then commandant of the National Guard was Clyde Vaughn. And I started laughing because one of the other coaches walks up and he goes, "You are with you," because I was a bad class clown all the way through. And he goes, "Nobody on planet Earth ever expected this picture to be taken." And we all start laughing. But you learn that you can become who you respect by maintaining a sense of dignity. Wake up in the morning with positivity, a prayer, talk to the connected spiritualities. The ancient Norsemen called it Wodan. The Native Americans call it Wokan. The Hindu call it prana. The kahunas of Hawaii call it mana. The Chinese call it chi. The Japanese call it ki. The Hebrew term is Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Soul. Christians call it the Holy Spirit. And my buddy, not too far up the road here, on this very road, he calls it, "The force is with you. The force is strong within you." And that's what you teach kids, that there's a force within us that's connected to the greater good of the world. Be part of that. Be proud of yourself. Be helping, suffering. And not long ago, I was coming out of Big Five Sports, and my little Russian Irish grandson was in the car with me. And I see this guy whose face looked like a Flemish painting of sorrow, suffering, trauma, and desperation. And he's in his 80s, and he's sitting on the island, and I go, "Oh," and I go, "Everybody, don't donate to the home." And she says, "Shut up, will you please?" I said, "This is right in front of my face here."
Yeah.
And I only have a 5, and I go, "Hey, come here, sir. Please don't buy any tobacco or alcohol, okay? Don't. Just do something good for yourself." And I'm rolling up the window. I go, "Have a good day, Jesus." And the little little Russian grandson goes, "Grandpa, I hope you know that was not Jesus." I go, "Yeah, Bron, I know that, but we're supposed to treat everybody that way. That way we have a pretty decent life."
Yeah.
And a little while goes by, he goes, "I actually get it." And that's the point. And I think what people get more than anything else is that they will long after remember how they are treated by you than what you teach them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you, in your career, I mean, stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Oh, tough business. Oh,
One of the most nerve-wracking jobs.
ruthlessly
You're exposing
hard
yourself.
at times. Yeah.
So, I mean, hearing you here, you're so comfortable. You rattling off these things. You're amazing. Have you bombed on stage?
Oh, tons of times. One of the first times I was up at the Holy City Zoo, that was one of the funniest things. And this is how great hecklers are. Hecklers can burn you to the bone, right? I'm on stage and I go, "Well, thanks a lot, folks." Not even one laugh. I'm very suicidally depressed now. And everything got real quiet. And the guy in the back, a bad drunk at the zoo, goes, "Hey, you can't die twice in one night." Even the heckler's hurt.
So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with bombing? Like, I mean, you're such a optimistic, positive person. Right. So how's the self-talk for you?
Well, the most important thing that you learn is, you always got second and third and fourth bat.
Yeah.
You're in a game. And you have no idea where that game's going to take you. If somebody would have told me that I was going to get all these awards and things that are in the garage under 15 inches of dust, because I love my wife very much. I've been married for a long time, 44 years. And I said, what was funny was, my wife was hilarious. When Katie went off to college, my youngest, she looks at me, and I have this wall with these awards and these pictures of these things. She goes, the I love me wall comes down today. And I started laughing again. And I went, "Yes, dear, whatever you say, I'm going to take it all down. We'll put it in the boxes in the garage." And it's sat there since. And it hasn't hurt me, because I think that my daughter was looking at, she goes, "Dad," she's looking at the boxes yesterday. She goes, "You did all this. You did." And I go, yeah. And I said, but that's not the feeling that I want to give off to myself or you. Is I got to do that because I had a power and a force and a family and friends who helped me do that.
Yeah.
Because without that, without my wife, without you kids, without the grandkids, I am nothing. I am just in the middle of the ocean floating. And I said, you guys have been my lifeboat. I can always swim back and get on board and start rowing. And that brings that poem that I work at. There's a camp up north called St. Dorothy's Rest for cancer patients run by the Episcopal Church. And the poem is written by a really brilliant woman named Nellie Lincoln. She said, on the road of life, you only have one constant companion. Make sure you become good company for yourself. And what I love about that is the poem is, oh, the winds of God are blowing, so keep your sails unfurled. And the winds of God will take you to the safe harbors of the world, forever full of power to take you where you will, forever full of grace if there are sails to fill. So take the helm, be master, unfurl your sail, your part, and the winds of God will take you to the safe harbors of your heart. That's where we must, the safe harbors of our heart, where we trust and believe in the serenity and we're resting in order to go on the next part of the journey. That's what you have to teach kids, because you're going to hit storms. It's going to be hurricanes. There's going to be strong winds, but set sail to your dreams and who you want to become and what you want to accomplish. And everybody rightfully can achieve that for sure, just by looking inside and realizing, yeah, I did my best.
So what, go ahead, Duff.
I want to come back to Connor and Brian a little bit. Either of them interested, or did they explore following the family profession and going into comedy?
Yep. Connor is a great comedy writer. He had a sitcom that was on Comedy Central, brilliant sitcom that he created with Dominic Russo, whose dad's the firefighter. They left Marin Catholic. They went down there and they worked and they had just a great time. And then, but they're still doing that. He's now teaching writing. He and his wife, who went to, here locally, graduated from Columbia, and they grew up here. And Brian is married to a young girl from Novato High and went to the University of California, Santa Barbara. And one became a doctor and one became a comedy writer. And my daughter is a hairapist. And that means she styles people's hair and listens to their life situations. And what's funny is she's more empathic than all of us, including me. And she knows exactly how to make a person feel really good in her chair. And there's a little girl up at Panera, not too far from here, who she has special needs. And Caitlin cut her hair. And there was not a woman that left the salon. They were staring, and when she turned her around, because she did it for free, and she looked into the mirror and she goes, "I'm looking beautiful if I could stop crying." And I said, when you can do that for a person for nothing and bring all the skills that you bear, no matter what your occupation is, as a coach, as a writer, as an encourager, as a doctor, dealing with people and having COVID, and, there's a really nice article in the San Francisco Chronicle about Brian's life, but you want them to be funny regardless, because that's the applicable part of our family secret. My wife is a writer. She's hilarious. We've all had fun.
And Brian's an emergency physician.
He's an emergency room physician who's dealt with a lot. And he was up at Brooklyn. He was the chief resident at Brooklyn Hospital Center, and he watched some sadness. And,
well, I can speak to, as an emergency physician, how it's very difficult to have a long career in emergency medicine unless you have that sense of humor. It tends to be a little dark and morbid.
Right.
But the most laughs that our group got was during COVID, because we had this text chain that was totally inappropriate.
Oh, yeah.
But it was
Survival.
Yeah, survival.
Survival. You can't see all that and not say, what the, but what happens and what's helpful is afterwards with cops, paramedics, firefighters, and all of them, when I'm teaching trauma, there's always the laugh that is hope. Like it makes no sense, but it makes all the sense in the world. The line is, you don't stop laughing because you grow old because you stop laughing. And, a cynic is somebody who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Sarcasm comes from the Greek term, the tearing of flesh off the human spirit. And as Mark Twain said, if you have that contained inside you, you're pouring it out on others that you work with. You're actually doing the most damage to yourself, because that acidic is burning a hole in you inside. So be positive, be optimistic, be spiritual, find those things that you can do to take care of and self-practice. And then I remember one time I was watching a little boy whose dad I had helped up at right behind me is a big little league field, and I had to coach for the dad. He came to every game. I love the guy. He was a potato chip truck driver over in Richmond, and his little boy was a little heavy set, and they teased him, but he was walking up almost defeated to bat. And I said, no, come here. No, you don't walk up dragging that bat. No, you put that bat on your shoulder because you are, come on, you swing that bat, you put that right leg and left leg into that, and send it out of the park.
Yeah.
And so I turn around fully expecting him to strike out, and I'm walking back to third base, and I hear the crack of that bat, and it's gone. And there's a little kid up center field watching it go, and the little guy is running, and he's a heavy-set little boy, and he's crying. He's got tears rolling down as he's coming to me. He goes, Coach, do you really let that happen for me? And I go, yes, I do. I told you that could happen for you. And I said, go home. Go home. And the team's cheering him. He hadn't had anybody cheer him all season. Now he's hit the home run, and we ain't going to win the game. But he hit a home run, and I look up at his father, and he's staring at me. And everything that I know I love about coaching was in that stare. We did it. You and me, we had him hit that home run. Encourage the heart. That's what sports are all about. Basketball, baseball, football. Encourage the heart and watch the miracle.
There's nothing quite like it.
Right.
So you've been involved in tons of charitable organizations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're all about giving back to the community. So what if people are listening to this and they want to get more involved? They've been moving. You've driven them to make a difference. One that comes to mind for me is I love Bread and Roses, and I know you've been involved there, and I'm old friends with Dave Marin, who runs that. But
45 years.
Yeah. So what else around Marin would you recommend people if they want to get involved?
We got Halla Creek Ranch. I'm wearing this belt buckle from Halla Creek Ranch. There's Grant's Crusade, which is run by Javier Burillo Ascaraga. And we take autistic kids and we give them experiences with care animals. We also do, I think Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, Rotary. Just get involved. Just find a way to get involved. And when you first feel awkward, when you get there and you're anxious and you don't think anybody's noticing you, or you might be feeling, get out of it. I always tell the kids, anger past 30 seconds is ego, and the ego is not your amigo. Let it go. Surrender. Find a way to get out of your own, self-absorption.
Take your cool jacket off. Take off. I say it all the time.
Put your superpower. Yeah.
Take off.
Put your superpower. So put your superpower cape on and believe that you are actually that person, confident and smart and wise, and get included. And that's, the parents, they need that. When I tell you, the funniest thing I've heard, and he probably would yell at me for using the name, but I'll love him. Phil Downs was a police sergeant in the city, and he was coaching the kids' team, and we were at the little league field right behind my house. And his son, Kevin, is a remarkable cop in the city, and just he's a strong statement on love and positivity. He does work with the Marine Corps and ranching to help them come back from PTSD. It's called Ranching Vets. And Phil came back from the city, and he comes pulling up, and there had been a person attempting suicide in North Beach and fell down, and there were people trying to get in the pockets of him. Mm-hmm. You'll love this stuff. It's like stuff you see, and you're like, what can happen next here in the emergency room? What can happen next in life? And they're all trying to get into the the person's pocket who tried to, and he's screaming at that, and he's a sergeant, he's in charge, and he's the watch commander, he's screaming at everybody, and they all go, and the truck pulls up and goes, call, hey, Phil, you got to get your Little League game. And he goes, oh, yeah. And he's in uniform and jumps in the car. He's taking his clothes off, get that thing off. And he's driving all the way over. And he gets there to me and he goes, oh, just the end is really bad. I go, Phil, everything's fine. I said, but this lady says she needs to talk to you. I swear to God, this is what she said. You've got to stop telling my son to catch the ball with 2 hands. You're lowering his sense of self-esteem. And I go, because he's staring at me and he's looking at me. He goes, that just happened. I came right from insanity to this. And the whiplash was, you're in Marin. You're no longer in North Beach. And we still laugh about that.
Yeah.
And that's the key when you're coaching, when you're teaching, when you're an ER doctor, when you're in business, no matter what you're doing, get ready for anything. The life is, I always have a t-shirt now that says, crazy ain't got a zip code no more. Right.
Right.
And the other one is normal is just a setting on a dryer. Right.
Good words.
And so if we get prepared, things are going to happen that we can't control. But if we control ourselves, our emotions and our heart, and our feelings towards others. Yeah.
Well, I know Dave is probably prepping for crunch time, but I do want to ask about the unified sports programs and MCAL.
Yeah.
And there are 6 or 7 different programs where their special ed kids will play with, non-special ed kids. And we have this team manager on our team at Archie, Nico DeBishop,
right,
who's just this wonderful, wonderful kid who was a great team manager, but he's also playing the unified sport. And I don't know if you've been involved with that, but it just seems like just a wonderful program.
Well, the reason we want to do that, I don't know if you saw the movie that Woody Harrelson did this year, and it's the more we teach social emotional intelligence, it's actually now being attacked in certain locations as being socialism, and I can't quite make that connection. I can't. What's what in that? But I've worked in Texas for Governor Bush, and I've worked for President Reagan. I've worked for President Bush #1. I've worked for Clinton. I've worked for Obama. I don't care. I just want suffering and vulnerable people to be taken care of, respected. I want veterans to be acknowledging the fact that we love them and care about them, and the firefighters and paramedics. So the more we get them involved in teaching that it's all of us together, and that's that line I use which is so appropriate at the end of a Special Olympics game. And I actually spoke of this at the Bohemian Club and in the big facility up there. And I was watching all these men, and I said, they run all the way down to the finish line. And one of them stops who's in front. And I go, Annie, no, come here. You win the gold medal. No, coach, I'm stay here for my friends. I go, no, you win the gold medal. Walk the coach, Mike, come here. No, I'll stay here for my friends. And she turned around and she put her hand out for a friend, put her hand up, and then all 6 kids held hands and came across the finish line together. Together, we all could win. That is what we teach our athletes early and often, to include, to notice, to see ways to make things happen for the individual that might be isolated or left out, because their genius, as we all know from autism, their genius can save our world if we pay attention to them being respected, included, loved, and connected to the greater good. Alan Turing taught that in that movie, Imitation Game, when Benedict Cumberbatch taught it again in The Life of Louis Wayne, making sure that neurodiverse people are accepted and included is part of the thing, because they're in our family. Yeah. They're in our family. I'm working with a young kid that created a thing called Snap, and he's a sophomore in high school, and he's decided that what he wants to do is put in police all over the state he wants to put a situation where if you're replying, first responders are going to that house, they know if there's a neurodiverse person in there and what thing they don't want you don't want the sirens. Because we lose so many of these folks to both sides being fearful and using weaponry and stuff that they don't know what to do. And it happens all the time. So the forewarned and having it in the thing, it's called Special Needs Awareness Program.
That sounds a lot better than the app that my son is on all the time, Snapchat.
Hey, you know who I saw today who's great, Duff? You. That was great. I love Marin County, though, man. They make me laugh so hard. I think I told you this. One of the kids I was in Mill Valley, and I love the kids in Mill Valley. It was great. And he goes, "Have you ever noticed that a lot of the parents in Mill Valley are such old school hippies, and they love all the people all over the world, but they really dislike the people in Tiburon."
Very true. Even on their own street, right? That kind of captures Marin for you.
That's right. All right. We've reached crunch time.
Right.
Mike, quick fire questions.
Yes, sir.
So because we've asked everybody this, we got to ask it for you. Otherwise, I think I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, got it.
Favorite gym in Marin?
The whole middle school, because
good answer.
Because you know what? There is more movement emotionally, spiritually, and physically there than any place else in the world, because that place comes in, and I see sometimes we watch teams come in and they're staring at us because we're loud and wild and fun.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what we are. And a lot of them are from foreign countries, and they're staring at us, what is this? What is this? And the movement that happens there from the Enlightenment is really powerful. That's right. It's
also, more importantly, Mike, that's where Duffy and I play our adult league basketball game.
Yeah, buddy. See?
That's right.
What I'm saying.
I've scored at least 1 point in that gym.
Clay Thompson will come to watch every 3 to 4 years.
Clay's been there. Okay. Favorite venue you've ever performed at?
I love the Throckmorton. I like the Holy City Zoo when I first started, it shut down, but the Throckmorton is the place to be, because I can feel the resonance of the invisible spirits there on stage with me. I really actually can. I feel people with me.
Downtown Mill Valley.
Downtown Mill Valley. The Throckmorton. I'm on their board, and I love it because
Mark Pitta had a regular
big comedy show.
Yeah.
I don't like to do this. I like to come and attend and just I'm the king of laughing. I just love to be exposed to the laughter and to support the young comedians. And that's what's really urgently important for these young comedians. Will Durst told me a story you guys will love.
I love Will Durst.
Durst is hilarious. He says, I went down to see him. He's still in the hospital, and he had a stroke, and he's been in there for quite some time. But he says, when I was working at the other cafe, the crowd was hissing the two young comedians that opened, but I got mad. I go, what do you don't hiss young people like this. That'll make them anxious and trigger them, and that's ridiculous. So I started yelling at the crowd, and the guy behind the counter goes, Will, no, Will. No. He goes, I'm telling him. And he goes, no, Will, it's the burrito steamer.
That's great.
Yeah.
Biggest crowd you've ever played for?
Oh, Candlestick Park. There was probably about 60,000 people. I opened for the Pope there.
Wow.
John Paul, and who is a saint now. So I can actually say I opened for a saint. And I had a great time. I emceed told some jokes and emceed the entire multicultural celebration. And, because of the San Francisco Chronicle, we had about 70,000 people at Robin Williams Meadow for Comedy Celebration Day. And I love that day because it's free for the public, families and kids and everybody. And we've been doing that quite some time. The Chronicle had to drop out because some of our young women and men did not know how to behave appropriately with the language. And who would have ever thought a comedian would try and break boundaries, right?
Shocking. So what's more nerve-wracking? You're going to go up at the Comedy Store in an intimate setting, or you're speaking in front of 60,000 people? Are they equally nerve-wracking?
No, actually not. You know what's great, Dan, this is when you have, I'll tell you the funny story. I was over in Piedmont. I was working with little kids, and I love little kids, but you have to work them. And I'm doing all the sounds, before she struck, and this one little kid keeps raising his. I go, honey,
I'm working here.
I'm doing a show for everybody. And he goes, just. I go, okay, what's your name? And he goes, my name is Destin. I go, what is so important? And he goes, how do you stay married? I go, where did that come from? I go, well, where did that come from? He goes, my mother would never let me act the way you do. Why does your wife let you act this way? And I went, oh. And the teacher goes, his mom and dad are psychiatrists. And I go, oh, well, then doesn't that explain it all?
There you go.
So, and you're always like that crowd because you most know, and this is going to sound crazy, that's where you make the most influence.
Right.
Drunks in bars, nightclubs, big things. You might hit 1,000 people consciously, but little kids, I still get cards and letters from children say I had a kid come to my house he said, when I was on your show in Lakeshore School, this guy, Brandon White, and he said, you changed my life. You made me a kind person. My family was going through a very rough struggle I can't describe, and you saved my life because you taught me to be kind and thoughtful and wise and good.
Beautiful.
And he goes, it altered me. And that's where I find, because you feel the pressure of you can really make a big difference like that. Like being a Sunday school teacher, really, truly.
Duffy, go ahead, ask yours.
Well, do you have a joke about basketball just to bring it back to the not quite so profound? Because if you don't, I have one that I just looked up.
No, I want to hear it. I want to hear that joke.
I
can't wait for this one.
All of 2 minutes on the interweb. Why are spiders so good at the sport of basketball?
I don't know.
Because they are all 8-footers. Spiders have 8 feet, Dave.
Mike, please don't encourage him.
No, I love that. That's my kind of joke. Dave, come on. Hey, do you know how to say in French? Do you know how to say cut the grass? Mow the lawn.
Do you have a favorite joke about sport?
I'll tell you what I have. A favorite moment with working with kids. And I did a PBS series. And it was by a Mill Valley firm called Inca Productions. And it was a 2-part series on the promise of play. And what it was, we had a basketball team, and this guy, Mike Spearman, who's now a security expert for the NBA. And he was a detective over there. And we did the series together. We were filming a team from Police Activities League. And it was the championship game in Richmond where we were playing. And the big star was about 6'8" and was 8th graders. And he panicked and he wouldn't take the shot with 4 seconds left. And he threw it to this big, heavy-set kid across the thing. And the kid, we got it all on film. He shoots and it goes nothing but net. They win the championship. The guy least expected. And his mother was a rather large person. She was almost planetary, coming down out of the, jumping on him and hugging him and squeezing him. And he was as shocked as she. And there was this. And I walked up, and this is my favorite basketball story. I said to the British film crew, did you get it? And they go, we don't know basketball. We did. I think we missed the shot of it going.
Oh, no.
I started laughing. And Spearman, who's a detective, has some very good language to describe.
Choice word.
And I was like, oh boy. And I said, and then by God, by accident, they did have the net moving back and forth after the shot came. Use that.
Nice. That's poetic.
That's it. That was
Yeah.
justice.
Beautiful.
And if you wrote that in a movie, that we have that on footage, that the kid makes the shot that the kid least expected. And I said, I told him, I said, do not put the footage on that kid who's the big star who didn't shoot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Don't humiliate him. Right. And the guy looks at me really pathetically and goes, I have no concept of what basketball is, and so I don't know what this is. So you needn't worry.
A trifle, really. All right. Favorite basketball runs in Marin? Best Marin hoops experiences.
Oh, just watch it. And I don't care where I am. When I'm watching little kids play or big kids play, or even in the summer leagues, when the young college guys come out or high school kids who are good and they're teaching them, that to me is everything. Watching these basketball camps where the kids are learning early skill sets, because the confidence that comes from making a swish shot in front of anybody, because that's the dream they all hold. Like the kid who hit the home run, the dad will remember that day. I'll be traveling across country in a flight, and the dad will be driving this potato chip truck, and we'll both hear the sound of that bat. That is what you live for. You live for that moment where these kids are teaching these kids. And what I love about Marin County is we've got some really great young women and men that, in the schools that teach positivity and up. And I see them at our basketball program at Alt Middle. They're just great.
Yeah, that's great.
I think we can one up that. If you come on Tuesday or Thursday night to Hall Middle School,
sure,
you can see people in their 40s, negative vertical leap, moving at the speed of molasses, but showing great alacrity in arguing with the referees. Dave, right? Am I right?
Hey, Duff, can I ask you a question?
No comment, Duff.
Is one of the great reasons that you're there is for injuries?
Oh, yes. Yeah, very depth in injuries, yes.
The overconfident guy who's going to dunk the ball, right? Yeah, all right, I got it.
Yes. There's a reason Duffy's on our team.
Well, you have to have an ER doctor around.
Gotta have it.
Yeah.
Come on, they're indispensable.
All right, last question, Mike. Most important one. Favorite Marin restaurant?
Ooh, I am completely addicted to it because it's in my neighborhood and I love the folks. But I love Gaspari's because I've had a relationship with them since I first started stand-up comedy. They have a place down in the city, and I knew Gaspari and I know Danny, the owner, but I also like the Italian restaurant right down the street. La Toscana, because Mike was Connor's baseball coach too, the owner.
I love La Toscana.
And Gaspari's.
It's great.
And both of them both great, and in our neighborhood. And as you can see, I suffer from anorexia ponderosa. I tried that Ultra Slim Fast. I found out it tastes great on Ben & Jerry's ice cream. At home on my truck, I have bulk up. Big people are harder to kidnap.
Well, kind of like our episode with Melissa Boyle, which was one of the
Isn't she an amazing?
She's incredible. And that was one of my, highlights of my life, really, was talking to her. This one is great because it's about a lot more than basketball. So
highlight of your Monday?
It's a highlight of the last hour and a half, at least. Mike, it's been an honor. You're an amazing human. Thanks for all that you do for kids, for people who need some joy and mirth in their lives. And we're really grateful to have you on. So,
well, I was listening to your podcast and I thought I actually called up. When I grew up, part of my job was when I was in St. Louis, I left St. Louis. After I left, I started working with Richie Calcaterra, whose son is the big star up at UConn. And I'm going to try and get him to come on the show. And his dad is a remarkable spirit too. He's a great guy, and he owns Enterprise, and he's just good people. And I talked to him the other day. I forgot to mention it because we were talking about something else that we have to get taken care of. But it's remarkable how you can watch, and I think this is the same thing as I think with Jared Goff. His grandfather and I worked for the sheriff's department together for years. And what you want for any family anywhere is that once they've achieved that greatness, they remember that they are on the shoulders of giants who who in the community loved them and prayed for them so much, believed in them so much, and wanted so much for them to succeed, that it's all part of that you get to be a part of. And I see it in a lot of the athletes that I've dealt with over the years and been friends with. They do appreciate that it's about representing the community they grew up in. So good for you guys doing what you're doing.
Well said.
All right.
Well said, Mike. And thank you for being an inspiration.
Oh, you bet,
to our community.
All right.
Yeah.
Burke's on his feet. He looks up and gives me a grin and says, "Hey, dude.